The sun above the alien market was hot and cruel. People from many worlds moved around, shouting, buying, stealing, and selling. In the middle of this noisy mess, an old human man pushed a small cart with rusty water cans. The wheels creaked. The cart squeaked, and the water sloshed inside metal containers that looked older than the man himself. His clothes were worn and patched with many colors, his boots were cracked, and his back was bent from years of carrying weight. He had no nameplate, no flag, no weapons, just a small badge that said Vendor Class D. Aliens laughed when he passed by. Some called him Old Rusty. Others just spat near his feet. To them, he was nothing. Just a weak old human selling dirty water. But the old man never got angry. He moved slowly, nodded politely, and placed small cups of water on the edge of his cart. Some aliens kicked the cups, some slapped the cart. But he kept going. One day, a group of young alien guards walked by. One of them, a tall blue-skinned soldier, stuck out his foot to trip the old man. The cart tipped forward, but before anyone could blink, the old man shifted his weight, grabbed the side, and balanced the cart again. Not a single drop of water fell. The guard blinked, confused. "Did you see that?" He asked his friends. They laughed, saying it was just luck. The old man gave a small nod and kept walking. But one alien girl saw it all. Her name was Zara. She was young, curious, and not like the others. She worked near the market, cleaning solar panels and fixing food machines. Zara noticed how the old man moved, how he always knew where trouble was coming from. Sometimes, before a fight broke out, he turned down a different path. Sometimes, before patrols arrived, he packed up and disappeared. Who was he really? Zara asked her brother one night. Her brother was part of the city guard and older than her by many years. He laughed and said, "He's just an old vendor. Probably crazy, maybe ex-military, or maybe just a lucky fool." But Zara couldn't stop thinking about him. The next day, she followed him from a distance. The old man stopped in front of a broken robot sitting by the wall. He gave it water, even though the robot had no mouth. Then he bowed his head for a moment, as if speaking to someone who wasn't there. Zara's skin prickled. Something about that moment didn't feel normal that night. She sneaked closer and looked at the old man's hand when he rested by his cart. There, under the dirt and scars, was a small tattoo, a triangle with a line through it. She had seen that symbol once, in an old history file. It was the mark of Phantom Squad. Phantom Squad was a human military unit. They had fought in the last galactic war and vanished after a mission deep behind enemy lines. Everyone thought they were dead, but the tattoo on the old man's hand was fresh. Zara's heart raced. Was he one of them? She wanted to ask him, but every time she tried to get closer, he moved away. It was like he could feel her eyes on him, like he had eyes in the back of his head. That night, while she slept, Zara had a dream. In the dream, the old man stood on a battlefield covered in smoke and fire. He held a blade of light in one hand and dragged a wounded soldier with the other. He was younger, stronger, and faster, but the same cold eyes stared back at her. She woke up sweating. She didn't believe in dreams, but something inside her said it was true. This old water vendor was not what he seemed. He had stories buried in his silence, scars hidden under his slow steps, and a fire that had not yet died. The next day, when she saw him again, she whispered to herself, "You're not just a water seller." And she knew something big was coming, something that would shake the whole city, and the old man with rusty cans would be at the center of it all. Zara didn't sleep much that night. The dream kept returning, the one where the old vendor walked through fire with eyes that had seen too much. She didn't tell anyone, not even her brother. If she did, they would just laugh, but something deep inside told her it wasn't just a dream. The next day, she waited near the dusty corner of the market. Right on time, the old man appeared, pushing his squeaky cart. He looked just as tired, just as weak. But now Zara looked deeper. She watched the way he scanned the street. Before turning, how he paused near exits, always ready to move. She noticed how he stood with one foot slightly behind, a stance taught to soldiers, not merchants. Zara followed him again, staying low behind boxes and stalls. He passed a group of rowdy aliens throwing dice on the ground. One of them, a sharp-toothed Gornak, stood up and threw a bottle at the old man's back. It was meant to scare him, maybe make him fall, but the bottle never hit without turning around. The old man tilted his shoulder just enough for it to fly past him and crash on the ground. Not once did he stop walking. The Gornak froze. Zara could tell something was strange. Even the other gamblers stared. One of them whispered, "That move." That was military. Later that day, Zara visited her brother at the security post. She asked, "Do you remember the Phantom Squad?" He looked up annoyed. "That's old war talk," he said. "They all died in the Bladestone mission." She nodded slowly and said, "What if one survived?" Her brother laughed. "Zara, those were elite soldiers, silent killers, not water vendors with creaky carts." But something changed in his eyes. He got quiet. He leaned forward and said, "Why are you asking?" She shrugged, trying to look casual. "No reason," she said, "just curious." But now he was the one thinking. After she left, he pulled up an old file from the war archives. It was restricted, marked eyes only. He stared at a black and white photo of the Phantom Squad, all masked, except one, the one in the back, with hard eyes and a cold face. He looked older than the rest even back then. Under the photo, a name, Calcine Ghostblade. That night, Zara watched the old man again. He stopped outside an old broken building near the edge of the market. There was a symbol on the wall, a faint triangle with a line through it, the same symbol as his tattoo. The old man stood in front of it for a long time. He placed his hand on the wall, closed his eyes, and whispered something too soft to hear. Zara's breath caught in her throat. Suddenly, a shadow moved behind her. She turned quickly, but no one was there. When she looked back, the old man was gone. Only the quiet street and the faint triangle remained. The next morning, people were talking. 3 thieves were found tied up near the merchant stalls. Their weapons were broken, and water had been poured in a perfect ring around them. No one saw who did it, but one old shopkeeper whispered, "It's the mark of the ghosts." Others called him mad, but Zara believed him. Later that day, her brother came to her quietly. He looked nervous. "Don't follow him again," he said. Zara frowned. "Why?" "Because," her brother said, "I searched the archives, and if I'm right, he's not just a soldier." She waited. Her brother leaned closer and whispered, "He was the last one, the one they couldn't kill, the one even our commanders feared." Zara felt her skin turn cold. She looked across the street. The old man stood there, pouring water into tiny cups, moving slowly, the same way he always did. But now, everything looked different. He wasn't just a vendor, he was a storm hiding in silence, and the city had no idea what was about to awaken. The fire from the old war still burned in his dreams. Every night, the same battlefield returned, smoke thick like fog, burning skies, screams swallowed by silence. He stood alone in that dream, his armor cracked, his blade shaking in his hand. The rest of his squad lay still, faces half covered in dust and blood. He remembered their names, every one of them. He remembered their voices, their laughter, their last words. And every morning, he woke up with a face full of sweat and eyes that refused to cry. He sat near his cart in the corner of the market, pretending to nap, but his ears never stopped listening. His eyes, half closed, always followed shadows. To everyone else, he was just an old vendor with rusty cans. To Zara, he was a puzzle with pieces hidden in war. And to himself, he was nothing, not anymore. Zara began leaving small notes for him, folded and quiet. She didn't ask questions, she just left words like, "I believe you," and "I saw you move before the bottle flew." He never replied, but she noticed the cups were cleaner on those days. Once, she even found a coin on her workbench, one she knew she hadn't earned. It was old, heavy, and marked with A military SEAL humans no longer used. One evening, she followed him again. But this time he didn't avoid her. He stopped near the edge of the old scrapyard and spoke without turning. "You've been watching for too long, girl." Zara froze. In place, heart pounding. "Are you going to hurt me?" she asked, trying not to shake. "No," he said. "You remind me of someone." She stepped closer. "Someone from your squad?" He didn't answer. Instead, he sat on a rusted crate and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. Inside was a tiny metal tag with names engraved in it. "Only one of them came back," he whispered. "And even that one wishes he didn't." Zara sat beside him quietly. She didn't ask anything more. After a long silence, he finally said, "You've heard of Phantom Squad?" She nodded. "They didn't die in one battle," he said, voice flat. "They were hunted." Zara's eyes widened. "By who?" "The ones who called us heroes, then buried our names." She didn't understand everything, but she knew enough. He was a ghost walking in daylight, and if he was speaking now, something must be coming. That night, the city sky turned orange. A transport ship arrived, larger than usual, carrying black armored soldiers with silver helmets. No one knew who they were. They didn't speak, didn't trade. Just walked through the streets like wolves looking for prey. Zara's brother looked worried when he came home. "They're not from any known force," he said. "No IDs, no orders, but our commander let them in." She felt her chest tighten. "Do you think they're here for him?" She whispered. "I don't know," he replied. "But if they are, they're making a big mistake." By morning, the water cart was gone. Zara searched all the usual spots. The market, the scrapyard, the back alleys, nothing, only a single clean cup sat where the cart used to be. Inside the cup, folded tight, was another old military coin. The coin was a message. He had disappeared before, long ago, when war stole everything. And now he was disappearing again. But this time, it wasn't retreat, it was preparation. The black armored soldiers questioned people in the market. They showed an old picture, faded but sharp enough to recognize. The man in the photo looked younger, but those eyes were the same. No one said anything. Some were scared, others just confused. But Zara said nothing, not because of fear, but because she understood now. This wasn't the end of a tired old man's journey. It was the beginning of a reckoning. A name the galaxy had tried to erase was about to return, and when he did, those who mocked him wouldn't be laughing. They would be begging. The streets felt colder, even though the sun still burned above. People whispered now when they walked past the market. The black armored soldiers had changed everything. They moved like hunters, slow and quiet, but their eyes were always searching. Vendors sold less, children played less, and laughter had vanished from the corners. Zara no longer saw the old man. Each morning, she waited by the broken pillar where his cart usually stood. But the only thing she found was dust and silence. It had been days since he vanished, but she could still feel him watching, not from the ground, but from somewhere above, somewhere hidden. She climbed up the old rooftops one night. The stars flickered above her like broken lights. She sat quietly, thinking about the way he had spoken to her, calm, heavy, like every word carried weight. He had seen too much, lost too much, but he never looked away from the fire. And now, the fire was returning. A loud voice echoed from the city tower the next day. An alien general stood before a crowd of frightened faces. His armor was polished, his voice full of false peace. "The treaty with humans is no longer recognized," he announced. "All remaining humans must leave this city within 48 hours. People gasped, but no one dared speak against it. Zara felt her knees shake. It wasn't just cruel, it was a trap. She knew what came next. They would start taking people, one by one, and the first to go were those without power, the poor, the sick, the forgotten, just like the old man that evening. A patrol stopped Zara at the edge of the solar repair station. They said they wanted to ask questions, but the way they grabbed her arm told a different story. She kicked, screamed, tried to run, but they dragged her toward a transport cage. The guards laughed as they locked her in. Inside the cage, Zara's hands trembled. She thought of the old man, of his silence, his strength, his warning. She whispered to herself, "Please. If you're still here, please do something." Across the rooftops, far above the noise, a small figure moved through shadow. His clothes were no longer dusty, his steps no longer slow. The rusted cart had been left behind, now in his hand. He held something old, something sharp, wrapped in cloth, hidden for years. The blade was back. He moved like a ghost, slipping between guards like wind between stones. One by one, the patrols lost communication. One by one, security cameras blinked to black. The command center received no warnings, only static and silence. The alien general stood at the edge of his private quarters, staring at a sealed box. Inside it was a file, marked Ghostblade. He opened it slowly, fingers shaking. Photos, reports, scars of the old war filled the pages, and at the end, one line repeated over and over, "Presumed dead." His second in command entered the room. "Sir," he said, voice tight. "The girl was taken, but something's wrong." "What do you mean?" The general asked. "There's been no check-in from 4 patrol units, and someone left a signal." The general's eyes widened. He ran to the screen, pulled up the feed from the nearest tower. The image was grainy, barely clear, but it showed the edge of a wall, painted in water, a triangle with a line through it. The general's voice cracked. "No, it can't be him." But it was, because some warriors die quietly, and others, they rise when they're needed, especially when someone innocent calls. Inside the transport cage, Zara sat with her knees to her chest. She heard footsteps outside, then silence. The door creaked open. She looked up slowly, eyes full of fear. And there he stood, no cart, no badge, just the man, the real one. He reached out his hand. "Let's go," he said, voice steady. Zara took it without a word. Behind them, the guards lay unconscious, surrounded by perfect rings of spilled water, the symbol of a man the world tried to forget. But war had returned, and so had he. The signal blinked in the darkness like a forgotten heartbeat. It came from the edge of the city, where broken towers leaned into the wind and no one dared to live. A soft blue pulse, steady and cold, glowed from a small metal device placed carefully beside an old wall. It made no sound, but those who knew, those who remembered, would feel it. Far across the city, deep inside a sealed military bunker, the old frequency still worked. A terminal lit up, warning messages flashing red. An officer stepped forward and frowned. "Sir, this signal hasn't been used in over 15 years. The commander turned, eyes darkening. "Trace it," he said. But part of him already knew who had sent it. The girl sat quietly in the old safe house, knees pulled up, eyes wide. The room smelled like oil and metal, like time had stopped there long ago. The old man moved silently, checking wires, unlocking crates, fitting parts together. Weapons that had been hidden for decades were now ready in minutes. Zara watched him carefully, her heart pounding. "You planned this," she whispered. He didn't look at her, just kept working. "I waited." He said, "Planned nothing. Just waited." Outside, the city was changing. The alien soldiers had doubled patrols. Faces tense, voices short. They searched every corner, scanned every face. Not for the girl. Not even for the missing guards. They were hunting something else. Or someone. A low-ranking officer held up an old data tablet to the general. "We found this in the archives," he said. "Buried, almost deleted." The general swiped through the file, jaw tightening. Images of destroyed outposts, fallen squads, burning flags. One man's face appeared again and again, never smiling, always watching. He slammed the tablet down. "This isn't a soldier," he growled. "This is a nightmare." We should have buried deeper. The night fell fast, covering the city like a secret. Zara stood beside the old man on the rooftop, the safe house behind them glowing faintly. He handed her a small device, round and silver. "What is it?" She asked. He looked at her, calm and quiet. If I don't return, press it. Her hands trembled. What happens if I do? His voice was low, steady. Hope happens. He jumped across the rooftops like a shadow. No noise, no pause, just silent movement through the night. He wasn't carrying everything, just what he needed. A blade, a scanner, and a thin wire. Tied around his wrist. Each step brought him closer to the place where his past had ended and his future had begun again. At the heart of the city, the prison ship waited. Inside, dozens of humans had already been locked in cells. The ship was preparing for launch, and no one knew where they would be taken. Some said labor camps, others said nowhere, just gone. But before the engines could power up, the lights shut off. Screams echoed through the hall as doors opened by themselves. Guards ran in all directions, shouting, confused, one by one. They dropped, choked, hit, disarmed. A figure moved through. The smoke, unseen but deadly. He didn't kill, he didn't need to. He just removed the ones in the way. A captain tried to radio for help. But all he heard was static, and then a voice, quiet but clear. Ghostblade lives. The captain dropped the radio in fear. The prison doors opened one by one. Families reunited, confused but grateful. And at the front of the ship, standing in the smoke, was the old man, not weak, not lost, but fierce, complete. Zara watched from a distance, holding the device in her hand. She didn't press it. She didn't need to. Because now the city knew he had returned, not as a vendor, not as a memory, but as a warning. The signal was never meant to call others. It was to announce him, and now the whole galaxy would remember why he was feared, across the stars, in hidden bases and quiet war rooms. The signal reached ears that hadn't heard it in years. Old commanders sat up straight, their hearts pounding like they had in their first battles. They had forgotten many things, but they never forgot that name. The name whispered like a ghost during the war, Ghostblade. An alien captain dropped his cup when he saw the message. It was just 2 words on his private screen. He's back. He stared at the words, his hands shaking. His mind flashed back to a dark night on a burning moon where half his squad disappeared. They were never found, only their helmets, broken, each one surrounded by a circle of water. No blood, no bodies, just that circle. The city was in panic now. People whispered in alleys, eyes darting with fear and curiosity. The black-armored soldiers were no longer calm. They marched faster, shouted louder, questioned everyone twice, but no one saw him. They only saw the results: guards gone, power lines cut, cages empty. Zara walked through the marketplace quietly. No one dared stop her now. Some gave her looks of respect, others of fear. They had seen her beside him, and that made her dangerous. She didn't feel powerful. She felt like she was standing at the edge of something too big. But every time she thought of running, she remembered his hand pulling her from that cage. She remembered how steady he was, how sure, so she kept walking. In the shadows, the old man prepared. He moved through old tunnels that he once used during the war. Most of the city had forgotten them. But he hadn't. He counted steps without looking. He turned corners without needing to see. His body remembered everything, even if his heart didn't want to. A message crackled through stolen radio waves. A challenge. The alien general spoke clearly. To the human hiding in my city, show yourself. We know what you are, but you are alone now. No squad, no army, just bones and dust. Come out and face me. The old man smiled faintly when he heard it. He tightened the straps on his gear and walked faster. He wasn't going to hide. He never had. He was waiting for the right moment. And now it had arrived that night. The city lights went out one by one, from the tower tops to the underground streets. Everything turned black. People came out of their homes, staring at the dark skies. In the silence, a sound came, not loud, but sharp. Metal against metal, boots on stone, and then one by one, flames lit up the sky in perfect circles. The symbol of Phantom Squad appeared on every screen, every wall, every rooftop, not drawn, but burned in. Zara stood in the middle of the square. Eyes wide, she whispered to herself, "He's telling them." "He's not hiding." At the central command, alarm screamed. The general slammed his fists on the table. "Where is he?" He shouted, but the room was already emptying. Officers disappeared, some running, some pretending not to hear. They remembered the stories now, the ones they once called myths. The general grabbed his weapon and stepped outside. He saw the old man standing calmly under the tower light. No army, no backup, just him. The general laughed, trying to cover the fear. In his voice, "You came alone." The old man looked up. "I always did," he replied. Zara watched from a rooftop nearby. Heart racing. This wasn't just about the past. It was about now. The old man wasn't trying to win a war. He was reminding them why the war ended in the first place. Because some men can't be bought. Some warriors don't need a squad to be deadly. And some names once spoken make even killers step back. That name was now on every lip. Ghost Blade. The man who never needed help. The one they mocked. The one who came back, and he was just getting started. The city stood still. Every screen, every eye, every heart locked onto the scene in the square. The old man faced the general like a statue carved from war itself. Wind moved around them, quiet but sharp, as if even the air was waiting to see. What would happen? The alien general lifted his weapon slowly. His hand was steady, but his eyes betrayed him. They shook, not with fear of the man in front of him, but with fear of the name he carried. "You're a relic," the general spat, trying to sound strong. "You're just a tired human from a dead squad." The old man said nothing. He reached behind his back and pulled out the blade. Not glowing, not flashy, just simple steel. Cold and clean. The same blade he had carried when his friends fell and he didn't. He held it in one hand and a water flask in the other. He took a sip, wiped his mouth, and stepped forward. The general roared and charged first, loud, fast, brutal. But the old man didn't flinch. He moved like time around him slowed. He dodged the first strike, blocked the second, and with one clean motion, disarmed the general and knocked him to his knees. People gasped, watching from windows and rooftops. The soldiers who stood with the general didn't move. None dared take a step forward. They had trained to fight humans, but not him, not the one who was never supposed to come back. The general looked up, breathing hard. He tried to reach for a hidden blade, but before he could, the old man poured the rest of his water on the ground. A perfect ring around the general's feet. The symbol, again, no blood, no kill, just the mark. It meant, "I could have ended you, but I didn't." It meant, "Remember who let you live, Zara." Climbed down from the rooftop and stood beside him. She didn't speak. She just looked at the general, then at the old man. Around them, the crowd began to appear. Slow at first, then more. Humans, aliens, merchants, guards. Even children, all silent, all watching. The soldiers lowered their weapons. One by one, no one told them to. They just knew. The fight was over, not because of strength, but because of truth. The truth that some warriors never fade. They wait. They carry, they remember. And when the world mocks them, they rise again. The general crawled away, his face pale. He knew his command was broken, his power undone, by a man with a rusty cart and a quiet voice. The old man turned and walked away. No cheer followed him, no parade, only silence. The kind of silence that comes when fear turns into respect. Zara walked beside him, still holding the small silver device he had once given her. "You don't have to disappear again," she said. He looked at her and for the first time smiled. "I don't need to," he said. "People see now." She asked him one more question. "Why water? Why sell water after all that?" He paused, thinking. "Because everyone needs it," he answered softly. "Even warriors." As the sun rose, the old man pushed a new cart through the streets. This one wasn't rusty. It was built fresh, strong, with smooth wheels and polished steel. He moved slowly, the way he always did. But now no one laughed. No one mocked. They stepped aside. bowed their heads, and offered thanks. Zara smiled as she watched him vanish around the corner, not as a ghost, not as a myth, but as a man, the deadliest warrior his squad ever had, and the quietest hero the galaxy had ever seen.